I'd like to call to order the Planning Commission meeting for Thursday, October 3rd. Sorry, let's make that a little pronounced.
I'll take the roll
Mr.
call.
Broll.
Thank you. Mike Broll, here. Commissioner Moody.
Here.
Commissioner Naylor.
Here.
Commissioner Stokes is absent. Chairman DeHaan is absent. Are they approved, by the way? Do we know?
John is.
John is
I'm not
approved.
sure about Alex.
He is, okay. And Chair Ulinski. Chair Ulinski.
Here. Sorry, I've been up since 3. Okay, motion for approval of the agenda with item 6D being amended. Amending the motion to, amending item D to consider site plan for reapproval, not extension, for 16410 Stevens Self-Storage Facility. Do we have a motion to change for the approval of the agenda with that change?
I'll make that motion.
I support.
Who supported, I'm sorry? Okay, thank you. Mr. Broll, yes. Commissioner Moody,
Yes.
Commissioner Naylor,
Yes.
Chair Ulinski.
Yes. Okay, next is first hearing of the public for items not scheduled for a public hearing. Do we have anyone that wishes to speak? Gone? Okay, we'll close the first hearing of the public. And do we have a motion to approve the minutes from September 5th, 2024?
I make a motion to approve the minutes of September 5th, 2024 as written. Second.
Commissioner Moody,
Yes.
Commissioner Naylor,
Yes.
Commissioner Broll, yes. Chair Ulinski.
Yes. All right, do we have a motion for a public hearing for item A? Receive comments on the nonconformity Class A designation request for 18900 9 Mile Auto Repair and Used Auto Sales.
I'll make that motion. Second.
Motion and support?
Commissioner Moody,
Yes.
Commissioner Naylor,
Yes.
Commissioner Broll, yes. Chair Ulinski.
Yes. Brigitte, do we?
Okay, so the public hearing for, the first public hearing of this evening is to consider the non-conforming Class A designation request for 18900 9 Mile. And the reason for this request in public hearing is that the property is zoned MU2, and Mac Auto Center number 3 would like to operate an auto repair and auto sales facility. However, this property is zoned MU2, which is our Main Street mixed use, which does not permit for either of those uses. Within the last 12 months, the property has had an active business operating that was brake service only, which means that it was a legal non-conforming use. And so the applicant this evening would like to not only continue with brake service, but expand to be full auto service, which would be an expansion of a non-conforming use. And so we have a distinction between non-conforming Class B, which means you may continue to operate as is, or we have the non-conforming Class A, which includes an expansion of your non-conforming use. And so as part of this review process, we do require a public hearing in which the public is notified and properties within 300 feet.
right. Does anyone want to speak on this issue? Do we have the owner here? Did you want to go to the podium and sign your name, please?
My name is Ali Rahal. Would you like me to tell you about the location?
Yes, please.
Okay, sorry, I haven't done this before. So the facility was auto repair before, but for the last tenant who was there had some issues getting the location up to code regarding ordinances for landscaping and other requirements. He was issued a temporary approval to do breaks only because he did not want, according to my knowledge, he did not want to spend the required funds to get it up to code. I'm willing to do all that. I was going to do all that anyways because I do care about how my business looks. And so that's why I'm here requesting to be allowed to do full auto repair. We don't do any like engine rebuilds or anything like that, but we do replace engines, transmissions. The majority of our business is minor repair though, and maintenance. And then I did put in a request to be able to authorize to obtain a dealer license to sell vehicles. There's a lot of really shady dealers out there. We actually do things the right way. We fix vehicles correctly. We sell cars that don't break down a month later. And I'd like to bring another positive, integrity-driven business to the community.
Does anyone have any questions?
So let me answer the question. You said that initially it's starting out as a repair facility. What is your estimated time of getting licensed to be an auto sales?
So to get an auto sales license, first you have to be approved by the city, and then there's an extensive process to go through with the state to get approved. So even if you approve me today, there's no guarantee that they will, but I'm hoping that the process will go smoothly. And I've been in communication with John and Brigitte, and hopefully I'd like to get the location up, everything up to code, and hopefully once the city is satisfied, hopefully the state will be satisfied as well.
I had a question. You indicated, I think in your statement, that you will not be working on engines and trans, but you may be installing engines and trans. Can you describe the difference?
Yes, so you have some mechanic shops that rebuild engines and transmissions, and it's a very extremely messy operation. No matter how you try to prevent it, there's parts everywhere, inside, outside, oil stains all over the property. I mean, it really makes the property look bad. We do simple remove and replace. The extent of the work we'll do is replacing an engine or transmission, but we don't get into all the messy stuff. I really do care about the way the property looks. We like to always keep it clean, and so we try to avoid the messy services. 90% of what we do is brakes, suspension, tune-ups, stuff like that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
You also mentioned your willingness for some landscaping. I'm sure we have some administrative, probably guidelines for this space. And you said you're willing to beautify the space?
Yes, ma'am. So we do have some slides. I'm not sure if that's working, but I'm only required to do a specific type of planter or plant certain trees. Depending on what I'm allowed to do, I'm willing to spend even more money to make it even nicer. I know there was certain minimum requirements, but if I only strive for the minimum in life, I wouldn't be here in front of you trying to take it a step further. So spending the money to make the place look great, it'll only go hand in hand with the type of service we want to provide for the community.
And if you only are allowed to do it as a auto repair facility and not the used sales, are you still going to continue?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the sales is not a requirement. That would be a a bonus for me. It's something I've always wanted to do, is find a location where I can sell vehicles. 90%, not 90%, that's, I would say at least 20% of the customers that come to us, they had purchased a vehicle from a used car lot and unfortunately were lied to. They were told their vehicle was in good shape and it isn't. So what I'd like to do by applying for the dealer license would be to be able to get cars, fix them properly and sell them and try to help, our normal everyday fellow citizens, because really those are the people that we serve on a daily basis.
Yes.
Chair, the screen share, I think I might get it to work now, so can we pause the meeting? Can we just pause the conversation for 1 second? Now
Yes.
we'll-
Thank you.
Apologies, but we now have a working screen.
Yay.
So this is an overview of what the applicant has submitted as part of a sketch plan. So a full site plan is not required in terms of a non-conforming Class A for review by Planning Commission, but a sketch plan is to be reviewed and meet ordinance standards based on the provisions set for a non-conforming Class A. So the review packet shows how the site currently looks, and these are some of the proposed enhancements, which would include closing one of the curb cuts on 9 Mile, lining the perimeter of the parking lot with planter boxes for screening from the parking lot, reducing the curb cut along Marine Avenue, and then, delineating the parking spaces, be removing the non-conforming pole sign, and bringing the site further into compliance.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions for the applicant? You good? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Does anyone else wish to speak on the 9 Mile repair shop? Okay. Moving on to the next public hearing, do I have a motion to receive comments on the special land use request for a surface parking lot at 22?
Chair,
Oh,
do we
sorry.
have a motion to close the last public hearing?
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
Do I have a motion to close the public hearing for 18900 9 Mile?
So motion?
Second.
Motion and support?
Commissioner Moody,
Yes.
Commissioner Naylor,
Yes.
Commissioner Broll, yes. Chair Ulinski,
Yes. Okay, motion for the public hearing to receive comments on special land use request for surface parking lot at 22100 Gratiot.
I'll make that motion.
Support?
Commissioner Broll, yes. Commissioner Moody,
Yes.
Commissioner Naylor,
Yes.
and Chair Ulinski.
Yes.
All right.
Does anyone have anything they wish to talk about for the surface parking lot at 22100 Gratiot?
Hi, good evening. Do I just sign my name right here?
Chair, before we have the applicant speak, would you like me to give an overview?
Oh, yes, please.
Um,
Sorry, one moment.
That's okay, just to set the stage for why we're having a public hearing this evening. So the applicant is requesting a special land use to have a surface parking lot at 22100 Gratiot. The applicant is Keystone Auto, and the representative of the property is here this evening. And the reason for this request is that the property is zoned DT, which is in our downtown district, which does not allow for surface parking lots by right. And the reasoning for that is based on the intention of the downtown to have, again, a more dense concentration of a variety of businesses. And so because of that, there's some further consideration given to surface parking lots. So the applicant does seek to have a surface parking lot in tandem with adjacent to his principal business establishment, which is an auto repair facility. So with that, I will pass it over to the applicant to give us some more information.
Thank you. Good evening, Planning Commission of East Point. I would like to thank you for the opportunity to speak regarding the future end of order of 22150 Gratiot Ave. First and foremost, I would like to apologize to the city of East Point regarding the process of the demolition of 2210. As an absentee owner, I should have been more proactive during the process of the demolition and made sure the following demolition was following the zoning requirements. 22100 Gratiot would serve a prosperous benefit to the local patrons that visit the facility. The parking lot would help many of the auto clinic customers enter and exit their vehicles safely without the effects of accidental damage from Gratiot. I can agree with many of the planner's recommendations regarding the special land use, as they align with mine as well. I will be proactive in securing the property free of inoperative vehicles, keeping it clean, maintaining the premises years to come. Please allow me this opportunity to invest in this parking lot while safely giving my customers easy access to my facility. I thank you.
Does anyone else wish to speak on it? Yes, please. Just state your name and write it on the pad, please.
You want me to write my name on this?
Yes, please.
Hello, and thank you. My name is Larry Stone. I'm actually the former owner of 22130 Gratiot. So I had the pleasure of operating that business in the city of East Point from 2002 to 2019. So that's 17 years. So during that period of time, I think probably my number one concern, my number one problem during all those years, and it's 17 years I operated that business, and I was an owner-operator, so I was there every day, was parking. I can't tell you the number of accidents. I can't tell you the number of near accidents. I can't tell you the number of customers that had to circle the business, that had to park where they didn't belong, where they had to park up and down the side streets, where it was a constant battle. The safety aspect of it alone always had me desiring to be able to find more parking. So now we look at this thing, and first off, I look at this drawing, and I have to laugh a little bit because half of that 22100 Gratiot that's drawn there has always been a parking lot. Okay, I mean, we're talking about putting some new parking lot in, but it's always been a parking lot. There was only a building on the far left side of that lot, but that parking lot that was there was a private parking lot that those folks own that 22100 building used, and I had to beg those folks to let me use just a couple of spaces that were along my building. And for that, I used to maintain that parking lot for them. So I know that you guys changed the zoning a year ago, okay? So maybe if this was 2 years ago, maybe he wouldn't have to be here. I don't know. But it's just ironic to me as a guy, and I own the building. I own 22140 Gratiot. So that's why I got notified. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm aware of this. So, and again, parking. There's no parking. So drive by there someday. Take a look at Gratiot and see what you see, okay? And so anyway, so that half of that thing was already parking. So, and I know, and then so Gus calls me and tells me about he's got to go before the Planning Commission, and it hasn't been discussed tonight, and I'm sure you guys are all aware of it. And because him and I talked about it a little bit, right? I've got 17 years of running that place, so he wanted some counsel from me. And he's reading these things, and he's reading me about it's got to be a public parking lot. And I think to myself, all right, You bought the land. You're going to be responsible for all the infrastructure improvements on the land. You paid to have the derelict old building that was vacant torn down. And you want to make a parking lot, but it can't be exclusive to your use? No? Okay. If you can live with that, I don't think I could live with that standing here. Okay, if you asked me to buy spend $500,000 somewhere down Gratiot to build you guys a parking lot, I don't think I would do that. Okay, but it's not me, it's him. So he says to me, he says, no, I'm good with that. I'm going to let that be a public parking lot. I'm like, you're a better man than me. He says, well, then I need to landscape it all up, and I don't mind doing that because I want it to look right. He's got pride in his business. I'm like, well, okay, I'd probably do the same thing, but probably not to the extent that you guys are going to ask for. We'd fight about it. But he says, no, I'm going to do whatever is necessary to make it look right. I'm thinking, that's pretty good of you, Then he tells me they want me to put a public EV charging station on it. I'm like, geez, I don't know, I guess. I mean, I wouldn't do it, but if he says, no, I want to do it, okay? I want to give that to the public. I'm like, wow, okay, that's great. He says, but I want to read you something from the planning commission, the planner, whatever. He says, tell me if I'm reading this right. And it says, and maybe I've misinterpreted it, and that's probably the main reason I'm here tonight. It says that you got to buy this land, you got to pay to take this building down, you got to put all these infrastructure, you got to spend hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars to make a parking lot. Then you got to give it to the public, basically, but you got to maintain it. Okay, you're the business owner, you have to maintain it, but we got to give it to the public for the public to use, so all of the businesses in the area can use it, all of the people in the area can use it, with one exception. You can't use it. Your business can't use it. And if you dare use the parking lot that you have to go through all that to construct, you're going to lose your business to operate the auto clinic. And I said, wait a minute, read me that again. So that can't be possible. That can't be possible. So this was a week ago. So I had a chance to talk to several people regarding this, several people.
Sir, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you very much. And they all said, that's impossible. That's absolutely impossible. So here I am today to, first off, I hope I'm wrong. Because having had a business and still have a business, I still own 22140. I still operate a business out of that building. Okay, I believe in East Point. I've been here for 25 years in East Point, so I believe in this city. But please don't be like that. If that's the case, don't be like that. Support your businesses. Help your businesses. Help them grow. Help their customers want to go to these businesses. And I understand what you're trying to do with this new zoning. I get it. But this guy will make a great parking lot. It'll look beautiful, and it'll be an asset to the community. And I guess that's all I say is just support your businesses. You need them, they need you, and your residents need their businesses. You want people to be able to walk to their businesses. And that's what I got to say. So thank you very much for hearing me out. Thanks.
Does anyone have anything else that they wish to speak on the subject? Okay, do I have a motion to close the public hearing for the special land use request for 22100 Gratiot?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
I'm sorry, who was second?
Kimley.
Okay, thank you. Mike Broll, Commissioner Broll, yes. Commissioner Naylor,
Yes.
Commissioner Moody,
Yes.
and Chair Ulinski.
Yes. Okay, on to new business. Consider a motion to approve the Class A non-conforming uses of auto repair and auto sales at 18900 9 Mile Road.
Yes, so to start off our conversation, I would like to read through the considerations for giving a Class A non-conforming designation. Those are that the proposed expansion would protect the health, safety, and welfare of community from nuisances. B, protect adjacent property values and existing characters. C, recognize lawful structure and uses. D, protect from abandoned uses and structures. E, promote alignment and conformity with the community and the zoning ordinance. Again, this is a use-related, non-conforming Class A request. So one thing that I would like to clarify is the request was for both the expansion to be full auto repair as well as auto sales. However, the auto sales request that is historical or related to this site is from 2013, and they did at that time pursue a special land use for vehicle sales. It was approved in the year of 2014, and only from 2014 to 2015 did it operate as used auto sales. However, we can only give, based on the standards of our ordinance, we can only give consideration to a use that's been in existence within the past 12 months. So unfortunately, that is not an eligible use to be considered for the non-conforming Class A. So at this time, we can only consider the expansion to not full auto service, but beyond brake service. And so some of the other measures that the applicant has brought forward do align with the standards for a Class A designation. For example, proposing the closure of a curb cut, improving vehicle circulation, improving not only the aesthetics, but minimizing the impacts of having a large parking lot. So he has the screening with the planter boxes. We also talked about street trees and, discussed that 9 Mile is currently undergoing changes, but that he would be open to adding the street trees along Marine Street and looking for a payment in lieu of landscaping along 9 Mile. That if there was a dumpster needed at the site, he would be interested in adding a dumpster screening. So these would be improvements to the site. And so for this reason, we do recommend to allow this business to expand to vehicle repair services beyond just brake service. And the reasons that we list is that they will restripe the parking lot, they'll add a barrier-free parking space, they would provide a screening device from the parking lot in the right-of-way, close an ingress egress, and reduce the other ingress egress, that they would have a dumpster enclosure, and that they would be mindful of our Modern 9 project while also contributing to our need for street trees. So there is a number of significant improvements that would be made to the site. And for this reason, yeah, we do recommend to give consideration to expanding beyond brake service only.
And how many trees would he be held for?
So based on the frontage of the site, street tree is required at 41 per 40 feet. And so that would be 4 along 9 Mile that we can give consideration for a payment in lieu of landscaping to. And then along Marine Street, there would be 3. Now, we still are missing some dimensions, although I do believe that the width of this green space along Marine Street would be wide enough to accommodate a small tree that can grow within 3.5 feet width.
The applicant's okay with the 4 payment in lieu of?
You can go to the podium if you'd like. Sorry. That's okay.
I'm not opposed to planting the trees. Actually, we need more trees on this planet. I just wanted to wait till we close the driveway because I was willing to close one of them due to, there's too many risks of accidents happening because people like to make a lot of U-turns right there. We did talk about the 9 Mile project that you guys are doing. So I don't mind planting them. If anything, they make my business look better. I just don't want to plant them if they're going to get ripped out or damaged in the process. So if paying you now means you're going to plant them later, I'm okay with that too. At the end, I just want it to look great and be a place that, everybody would like to come to.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
Thank you.
Chair, can I clarify? Sorry, would you mind clarifying? Do you intend to close the curb cut yourself, or would that be based on the 9 Mile project when the city closes it?
I honestly didn't really get a chance to look into the costs that are involved in closing that driveway, but I was planning on closing it regardless with planters or doing some sort of blockage there. I would like to rip out the concrete and have a new curb installed and, lay some new sod down, because it's going to look kind of ugly with just planter boxes there. I just need to find a good concrete person to rip all that out.
Okay, and then for another clarification, payment in lieu of for the trees is you pay the city an amount for each tree. So it wouldn't be you pay them and decide to plant them later. It's one or the other.
Correct. Once you redo the roads and stuff, are you going to plant trees anyways, or no? This is just, if I pay it, trees will never be planted there.
So the way that, Chair, if I may.
Yes, please.
So street trees will be added along 9 Mile, and it's going to be a certain number. So I don't know if it's going to be every single business would be given a street tree in front of their property. I think realistically, or hopefully down the road, at some point, that would be the case. However, the payment in lieu of landscaping is more of a pool that then the city uses throughout the city. So it may not come right back to your property. So if you would prefer to have the street trees in front of your property, then I do think it would be best to plant them yourself. And I would be okay if the building official is okay with, so long as everything else is met within the 1-year period, that we give a 2-year period for the street tree plantings along 9 Mile. And that way, at that point, we can ensure they would not be disturbed. So,
Were you reading my mind?
yeah.
Okay.
Can I say something?
Yes, please.
Do you want trees planted on 9 Mile?
So as Mrs. Wolf said, there will be, but you said as well, is we don't want you to plant them and then with the 9 Mile redo, them to possibly be ripped out or moved.
Okay.
So we would give you an extension to see what that is going to look like
Okay. And then-
instead of you
Okay. Yeah,
doing it
either way,
now.
I'm good. Either way, if you want me to plant them or you guys plant them, you want me to pay for trees, I'm fine either way. I'm on
Well,
board.
I just don't, I want this, I don't want you to do something that would get changed and your money would be,
Yeah, no, I'll wait. I'm in
Perfect.
agreement with her. I'll wait.
okay, all right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you. All right, yes, please.
Ms. Smith, what prompted the applicant to come in front of us today?
So the applicant submitted for a business license, so he's a new tenant to this specific location. And so on the most recent business license we had on file, business was approved as brake service only. And so in checking the zoning, it's MU2, which doesn't allow for any new auto repair. And so it becomes a non-conforming use. And what non-conforming use by default is that anything within the past 12 months may continue to be operating, so long as it doesn't have a significant adverse impact upon nearby properties. So at that point, for him to be considered, his request was to be auto repair, and that is an expansion upon the non-conforming use. So that's why he's here this evening to request a non-conforming Class A designation.
So it's non-conforming, he's a new tenant or new owner, one of the two, whatever.
New tenant, yep.
New tenant, was there a business operating in, that brake company was operating previously?
Within the last 12 months, yes.
Okay.
So the last business license was from 2022, and they closed at some point within the last 12 months, or they left that site within the last 12 months.
If that company had left that and had been vacant for 2 years, let's say, then this applicant would not have an option because it's non-conforming, would not be able to operate.
That's correct.
Okay. Okay, but we've got a continuation in less than 12 months, so we've met that timeline.
Correct.
Okay. And then there were a number of things that I read in your write-up that I didn't think were addressed, and then as I was reading later, I think they were addressed, such as the dumpster, such as the curb cut, trees, parking space dimensions. Is this all resolved? Are you satisfied with all of these?
This-
These are smaller items, but they were questions that I read as being
Yes.
open.
Yeah, thank you for that clarification. So this evening, the applicant is only here based on the licensing component, so he's seeking a non-conforming Class A. So if he's approved to expand at that point, we would then review the sketch plan, and a sketch plan is set up to be reviewed administratively. In this scenario, with an administrative review, it does have to be in strict compliance with the ordinance. If there was something that wasn't in strict compliance, like you wanted to reduce the parking dimensions or seek a waiver for different elements, at that time, we would then have to come back to Planning Commission to seek a waiver. So that is a good point to clarify. Moving forward, the next step would be an administrative review, as long as it complies with the ordinance. If a waiver is needed, then the applicant would need to come back before the Planning Commission for a site plan review.
Okay, all right, that's what you were
Yeah.
walking into where I was going with. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
No, thank you. That was a good question to clarify.
Anyone else? Okay. All right, do we have a motion to consider a motion to approve the Class A non-conforming use of the auto repair at one,
File a motion that we approve the Class A non-conforming use of the auto repair located at 18900 Mile Road. She has a recommended language.
Yeah.
Motion to grant the Class A non-conforming status to parcel ID number 1433105-001, commonly known as 18900 East 9 Mile Road, for the continued operation of vehicle repair shop as permissible under the city's zoning ordinance, under the following conditions as outlined in the planner's letter dated September 26, 2024, and any additionally reviews conditions set by the city engineer or fire marshal to address 50-219, section 11.05, standard D. No non-conforming use shall be resumed for any thus auto sales, including the display of vehicles for sale, are not permitted, as it is a non-conforming use that has not been in operation within the last 12 months and should not be resumed. To address 50-219, section 11.05, standards A, B, F, and I, the applicant must restripe the parking lot, provide a barrier-free space, provide a screening device between the parking lot and right-of-way, close the one egress driveway closest to the intersection, and reduce the curb cut along Marine Street. To address 50-219, section 11.5, standards A, B, and C, the dumpster must have an enclosure and meet section 50-204G requirements. To address 50-219, section 11.05, standards A, B, F, and be mindful of the modern 9 Mile Road reconstruction, the applicant must submit a paved in lieu of tree planting for the required street frontage trees along 9 Mile Road and plant the 3 required street trees along Marine. To address 50.2-219, section 11.05, standards G, there may be no overcrowding of vehicles. Vehicles must only be parked in the parking lot in designated parking spaces. Thus, no more than 30 vehicles are to be on site at any given time, whether they are to be repaired and ready to be picked up, employee parking, or customer parking.
do we have support?
Chair,
Oh,
may I
yes.
interject? Based on our conversation, I would like to propose a consideration to amend the motion for the fourth item. Instead of the payment in lieu of tree plantings along 9 Mile, that the applicant plant the street trees along 9 Mile within a 2-year period of operating.
After we see what's going to happen,
Yes.
okay?
Support.
Chair, I have one more question that I didn't get answered. I apologize. I didn't think about it. Can I
Absolutely.
stop at this moment and ask the question?
Yes, I think so, Rich, if that's okay.
Withdraw the
Okay.
motion.
It's appropriate?
Yes.
Question.
Okay, thank you. So this question is for Ms. Bridget Smith? Ms. Bridget. It says Smith.
Yeah,
From your
it's not
name is Wolf.
updated.
Oh. Okay.
It's okay.
How long
Ms.
have you
Wolf,
been here?
I don't know. I don't know. Ms. Wolf, I've got a question on the standard for approving Class A designation. So, and on the PDF, it's page 15. I don't know what page it is in the packet, probably 15. I'm not sure. It says section 11.05, approval standards for Class A designation. And I'm interested in your interpretation of how you arrived at a Class A is acceptable. If you look at section E, which is promote alignment and conformity with community and zoning ordinance for uses. This is a use, so that's appropriate. There's 1 and 2. 1 is the proposed use will have less of a negative impact on neighborhood properties than the existing land use. It won't have less, for sure. So, but it doesn't meet that standard, in my opinion. And then on the second part, the proposed use, although inappropriate to a uniform zoning pattern, is desirable and useful in pursuit of the public interest or is more appropriate to the zoning district than the existing non-conforming use. And the reason why I ask this question is because we, in the Planning Commission, are tasked with reviewing the master plan and trying to build this community to align with the master plan and obviously zoning ordinances, things like that. So here we are, this is non-conforming. And it, to me, it doesn't meet this. And I believe in section 11.05, you have to meet all those requirements from A to G, H. So obviously, you've taken it to the point where you're saying you would have a recommendation that we make a motion to approve. So to me, it doesn't meet those requirements. I'd like your feedback and
Yeah.
interpretation.
Definitely. So the site improvements that I just discussed not only are an improvement to the site itself, but the vicinity. So we can start with vehicle flow, for example. Reducing curb cuts and minimizing curb cuts and moving them away from the stop sign in the intersection is not only an improvement to vehicles trying to enter and exit that site, but also vehicles driving past. Because we want to minimize the amount of potential cross points or collision points. So this is an improvement to people who are residents down Marine Street as well, right? If you narrow your intersection and you are further away from the stop sign, that's an improvement. As well as a narrower curb cut is also beneficial for pedestrians walking by, or again, eliminating any unnecessary curb cuts. So that's just one of the changes that has improvements to the site and the surrounding. Another would be limiting the number of vehicles to only the parking spaces. Again, we're avoiding the situation in which it becomes a situation of outdoor storage, over cramming of vehicles, which we know is not only a nuisance, but potentially hazardous for a number of reasons. Furthermore, by adding the street trees and the planter boxes, you're not only better delineating the space between the vehicles and pedestrians walking by, but you're improving the aesthetics. And with street trees, there's many benefits to that for not only the site, but the surrounding properties as well. So I see the investment into this site that is also in alignment with the zoning ordinance standards as an improvement to the specific site, but also the vicinity. And it is at a corner, so it's even more visible. Again, more traffic is passing by. So I see that is even more important to be making these changes to this site. If there's anything that the commission sees as, again, a potential negative impact on the surrounding properties, this would certainly be the time to discuss it, because then it should be included at the this point, but we did go through the ordinance to look to see what would be potentially a negative impact on the surrounding properties. And they already do have the required screening wall to residents. And then, again, the dumpster enclosure, which would be an improvement to surrounding properties.
So those are site plan issues that you spoke about. Those are not use issues, are they?
Well, they're intertwined, so the ordinance sets specific standards on how the site is used, but it is related to the use, again, how your vehicles are being, it's an auto repair service. So the use of vehicles is pretty closely knit with this proposed business type. And again, you're gonna be having vehicles coming in and coming out of the site. So it's pretty intertwined how you have your site set up and again, how you use it. But again, if you have certain concerns such as odor, sound, something we talked about, the applicant, is that the repair service must be within the building. So if you think that's something that we would need to explicitly state right now as a part of the non-conforming expansion, that we can certainly add it in.
Well, I think the big thing whenever you start seeing a repair facility is where are they gonna park the cars and how long are you gonna park the cars there? But to me, again, that's a site plan issue, right? Well, I mean, if you think it's appropriate to include that language here, by all means, let's do it. But that, to me, seems like that. But then again, there may not be a site plan review. So perhaps this is the moment to talk about that. I'll just go back to this question. I mean, I actually like the idea of everything I've heard. I'm just taking the actual language that I didn't write and applying this use to this standard. And so, interestingly enough, if the applicant wasn't making any changes to the land, to the property, to the structure, then there would be no improvements to this use.
That's correct, and there also wouldn't be then the additional safeguards for us to proactively ensure that there wouldn't be further, because again, it's based on how it's currently being used, so it's not worsening that. So if we didn't, yes, require these improvements or be diligent to think about what potentially could occur that would be a negative nuisance.
Okay, you're the expert. When I looked at that statement, I thought of it purely because it's actually, the term is used, so I thought of it purely in the aspect of the use. The use is auto repair and the expansion of auto repair. I didn't think of it in terms of what you're suggesting, that the site plan and the improvements to the land go along with the use.
Yeah, and again, your screening of the usage, so it's pretty intertwined, but I would like to call attention to the last standard, or the last component of the motion, which does say that there shall be no overcrowding of vehicles, and that they can only be parked in the designated parking spaces, and no more than 30 vehicles can be on site at a given time. And that's because on the sketch plan, it shows that there's a possibility to have up to 30 parking spaces.
Fair enough, but what about parking, define parking? Sorry to make this longer than it may need to be. What is parking?
So, the way that we wrote the motion was to also include vehicles that are on site to be repaired or have been repaired and waiting for pickup. So it's at that given time, any vehicle on site should be placed within again, to make it look more orderly and neat. And then also, it's based on what the site can accommodate. So that's how we came to that.
Sorry, I think I asked it wrong. What's the difference between parking and storage?
So parking is, based on the definition of our ordinance, it is within a period within 24 hours. Storage would be beyond 24 hours. So outdoor storage is not allowed, so vehicles can be placed on site within a period of 24 hours.
So to be clear, and I think I can round it out. To be clear, he receives a vehicle on Monday. Within 24 hours, that vehicle will need to be in his shop, being repaired. Then it's not parking because it's in his building. The repair is finished, let's say on Thursday, it has till Friday, sometime Friday has to be gone. It's 24-hour periods.
Yes,
between when it's in the building.
right,
Okay,
in a singular space.
okay. I'm glad the applicant's here to hear that too, because that's
Yeah.
the requirement.
Yeah, if you want the applicant to speak to
If
that.
you'd like to comment, for sure.
As you mentioned, it's, no car, very rarely is, a car able to be in there and gone the next day. If it's up to us, the car will be done within 24 hours. The problem is the customer doesn't always pick it up. And I'm not sure if you could pull up the PDF, please, of the images we did. So a lot of the design of what I did was based on having 6 parking spots to the left of the building for the repair. All the other parking spots were intended to be for cars for sale. The actual, that's a huge parking lot just for a mechanic shop. I mean, if I have 30 cars out there, there's no way they're going to be all fixed within a few days. And you never know the condition of the cars that are coming in. You know, some cars come in smashed up, but they're running. You can't tell the customer, I'm not going to fix your car because your bumper's broken. That's why, seeing that it was approved for auto sales before, I figured, okay, if I could have, one side to be cars for sale, it'll limit how many cars we're actually taking in on a daily basis to repair. Why? Because cars for sale, I can control how they look, I can control how they run, I can control the condition of them. But when customers drop off cars or it gets towed in the middle of the night, I have no control over that. So I heard you mention that it wasn't approved for sales, but I do ask you to reconsider that. If you don't like the look of a used car lot with car sale signs everywhere, I'm not so concerned with putting signs up. But, it's, I can't fix every car in 24 hours. It's not possible. And you mentioned the dumpster. I just want to let you know, behind the property, there's a shared parking lot for all the building I have and the couple next door. It's a shared lot, and it does already have an enclosure for a dumpster. Nobody uses it, but I do plan on using it and keeping it locked and clean. I already had all the landscaping cleaned up around it, the wall power washed. So all that is already present on the property. So, all right, thank you.
Anything else?
Anything else? So should we restate the motion? I think we want to take into consideration that this is even though he's the new tenant, the reason why we're having this non-conforming Class A, when we were doing the zoning and going through the zoning orders again to revise it, we left this non-conformity with the A and B, because there may be some non-conformity B that just wouldn't qualify, but this A was for those businesses that were so similar. They say it's expanded, it's still on repair. There's not a massive difference in the use. It's still fixing cars.
Correct.
And that's what I think if we look at it in that regards, then the conformity class says what we focus on. Like I say, less of site plan and some of those other things, which they're doing, which is great. But what we're approving is just the fact that it does qualify as a non-conforming Class A. And so she gave in the motion those things to consider. So I think we have addressed everything. And we have already stated that it could not be sales because the sales use had ended prior to 12 months. So that's unfortunately, sales is not an option because it's no longer allowed in that area. And it's been greater than 12 months.
But I have a question because the applicant mentioned it and I didn't think of it before. So he mentioned tow trucks coming during the middle of the night. We have we're going to have 2 ways in. So the parking lot's big enough. What about disturbing, that's not anything that would disturb the neighbors, right? Like that's just, is there any restrictions on that? I mean, I know this happens.
It could be restricted to that it has to be unloaded on site. There is adequate space based on this configuration so that it doesn't obstruct the street. That's something that I would think of in order to prevent any disturbances. But that's, again, a decision of the commission. that is necessary.
Does anyone have any thoughts?
I would just say if there's a reason a car is being towed, I don't think that's anything that the client can really control. To
Right.
hold them accountable, because it's in the middle of the night. Somebody want their car fixed, that's why they get their car fixed, they'll just have it towed there. And it's just there when you wait, so I don't know, if we can stipulate. I'm just looking at the design, I don't see a tow truck's gonna decide to go down Marine, more so they're gonna be coming off the garage and parking that car.
9 Mile.
9 Mile, sorry. Yeah, Marine, anyway, come off, pretty much it's gonna be 9 Mile, but I still think that's not something that the business owner can control, because it's during off hours, middle of the night, and somebody may designate that as their, shop of choice. And
I just wanted to bring
you
it
got
up.
the whole alley, there's a lot of separation of the screening wall. I don't know how that could be disruptive to a neighbor or the neighborhood, the fact that a car needs to be brought and towed down. That's just my opinion, I don't know how disruptive that could be for someone. And it's something that they can't control. So if we make a comment about it, who can control when the tow truck's on there or someone's coming?
No, I agree, but I just wanted to bring it up because it could possibly, I didn't want it to become an issue, or I just wanted to throw it out there.
And so I guess so we can frame it, how do you see that being an issue, the fact that the car is there or the time of hour is delivered? Which one are we addressing? So I can.
Time of hour delivered and
That's what I'm
being,
saying, that we can't have control over.
yeah, no. Well, what were you going to say?
Well, I was gonna say
If you have
that,
some more
in my
comments, go back to the
opinion, there was an
podium.
alley behind the building, and there is a there's a masonry wall on
Cut
the
out the
resident
screen.
side, so that's the point of why I am always an advocate of making sure we have, that when we have people with an alley behind them, this is a good example why that type of wall provides value, because it's a buffer against noise. And you have 9 Miles, so there's gonna be residual noise anyway, so I would agree with Commissioner Naylor, you can't really control the time of
I know you
day that
can't,
a
I
car
just
gets
wanted to-
towed in, and there's enough buffer, in my opinion.
I don't have a problem with it either. I just wanted to bring the point up to discuss if it would be an issue.
It's a
Do you
good
have
point.
another comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that the tow trucks, they don't make a lot of noise. You know, we've been dealing with tow companies for years. The majority of them have newer tow trucks because a lot of them work with cities. And the main companies we deal with, most of the time, we don't even hear them come in during the day to pick up cars and drop them off. So if any of the neighbors have an issue with it, I mean, there's always, a way to work around it. I could even block off the 9 Mile side or the Marine side and then coming on 9 Mile, but there is the house behind it, it's a double lot and the house is on the further lot. So I don't believe it'll be an issue for noise wise.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, do we need to restate the motion or just continue?
Madam Chair, I think the record is clear.
Okay.
Ms. Naylor made the motion. Ms. Wolf made an amendment, which has been accepted, so I believe that suffices.
So we have motion and support?
Support.
We do now. Commissioner Naylor,
Yes.
Commissioner Moody,
Yes.
Commissioner Brolza, yes. Chairman Ulinski,
Yes.
Chairwoman Ulinski.
Okay. Item B under new business. Consider a motion with recommendation to City Council regarding the special land use request for 22100 Gratiot Avenue surface parking lot. Any discussion, questions? Brigitte?
Yeah, so the first component is again in terms of the special land use, the ability to be able to create and utilize the surface parking lot. So we did prepare a review based on the standards of the ordinance in terms of how we evaluate a special land use, harmony with the master plan, harmony with existing character, hazardous or disruptive, improvement to the community, adequate public services and facilities, excessive or additional cost of public services, and the nuisance smoke, if it causes any odor, pollution, noise, fumes, glare, and then consistency with the ordinance. We did point out a number of potential conflicts that we see with the zoning ordinance and the master plan in creating a surface parking lot at this location. But again, something to consider is that we give recommendations for ways to mitigate those concerns. So something I would like to clarify at this time is that the request before us is to have a surface parking lot, not an outdoor storage. Outdoor storage is a whole separate land use category in the zoning ordinance, which is not permitted in the downtown district. So this evening is to consider, and the applicant is requesting for a surface parking lot, which again, defined by the ordinance, is that a vehicle is there for a period of 24 hours. So this is why some of the recommendations were made, such as allowing businesses to the north of the site to also utilize this for business purposes, because it is a substantial parking facility and it is in the downtown. That they provide the necessary screening. And then, again, we were trying to consider ways, again, in which it would not only align with the master plan and the zoning ordinance, but how it would better contribute to the intent of the downtown area. And this is something that we can discuss with the applicant and amongst ourselves as well. I think the main point of our recommendations to mitigate is to really avoid nuisances, which is our intentions with a lot of auto-related facilities. We don't want the overcrowding of vehicles. We don't want it to not be properly screened and kind of decrease the aesthetics of the corridor. We don't want there to be the storage of inoperable vehicles or equipment that not only doesn't enhance the character of our community, but also can lead to issues with pollution. So I think something in my mind as a bare minimum is allowing the parking lot to be for a number of establishments, business establishments that are adjacent to the parking lot. But if the commission thought it necessary to add additional improvements to the community, this is where the conversation of how can it best be utilized to serve businesses and patrons in the area. And that would be, one way to do that would be to add electrical vehicle charging stations. Now this would be managed and operated by the property owner, and it could be leased out, like it could be an additional income source. But it also does include a community benefit, because you're serving people that wouldn't necessarily, again, their car is not there to be repaired. It's there to either charge their vehicle or their employee in the vicinity, and now they can charge their vehicle as well. So we were looking to what our master plan and what our zoning ordinance looks to for the future planning of our city, and this was one item. If you think there's something that is better suited for this site and this context, we can, again, we're not completely tied to that. This was a way for it to be a better improvement to the community and the vicinity.
Madam Chair?
Yes, please.
I just was looking at this. This is a special land use because we're allowing the parking lot. And I just don't see any safeguards. What if his parking lot that he has invested in is overutilized by the public and he doesn't have usage for his patrons? I don't see any safeguard there. Also, I know the EV charging station is where we're going, and many parking lots are now having those. I just feel that there's a lot of usage that would be on his expense, his utilities, and he has no control. He can't say, available for my patrons during the time they're in my establishment. It's like anyone just driving to his lot using his services. Electricity, unless he can really find a way to make it a revenue stream, you have no control. That does seem quite aggressive for, if you're gonna allow a special land use. I think we should consider what we are saying has to be incorporated. Either we allow it or we don't, but I'm feeling these stipulations can be an infringement on his business at the same time, because there's just no control. What if his patrons can't use a lot that he's invested in? And then there's a charging station that, anyone can use whenever, like he's a gas station. I'm not certain, if that's the best, response to have. Either we make it a land use, it's already a parking lot now, I mean, we got the striping and the other things to go with it. But I think there should be some designation or some more parameters if we're gonna say it has to be open for the public, open from the public from, 7, for dinner hours, but all day, and it can conflict with what the business owner's trying to do. Just raises a concern for me as a business owner.
So where that parking lot is, I don't disagree with you because those are the same thoughts I had exactly. And where that business is, there really aren't other businesses that would use that spot. And my concern was, what if the neighbors on that, on Chestnut were having a party and all their party goers were parking in that lot? Just a thought that I had. And I guess all the parking behind the building belongs to whom? Okay, so you have all the parking off the alley. Could you step up to the podium, please? Sorry.
Yeah, no worries at all. So I have the parking at 22130, 22150, and hopefully 22100. So all the parking in the back over there would be 22130's parking against the wall.
So are you saying next to the alley, what we're saying?
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I didn't see you pointed there. So right there where you're at is 22150, I own that as well, on the other side of the alley, and the 22130 connected to the 22150, I own that as well.
Okay, so you have all that parking behind,
I have
off
all-
the alley.
Correct.
What is the intention of the additional parking lot?
So the additional parking lot would be a safety measure for my customers that come in. I'm having a lot of issues with customers parking off of Gratiot, getting hit, getting smacked. Not even a week ago, I've already had a collateral damage with the vehicle over there that I had to take care of. I mean,
Okay.
it's becoming very, it's more of a safety hazard to get this parking lot than not to have this parking lot, because it's getting pretty rough.
Okay, and then the parking that is off the alley, that is for vehicles being repaired?
Can you point to it? I'm sorry, if you don't mind. Yes, so all of those are vehicles being repaired, correct.
So wouldn't that fall under storage?
I don't really like to be honest with you, I don't like to really have any type of storage. I have a very strict policy that vehicles are not picked up within 48 hours, they're towed off the lot. Many of the vehicles that are sitting there are either customers that haven't been paying for the bill, or vehicles that are dropped off, or, within that frame. But usually, I mean, on a daily basis, I'm having probably a vehicle or two just towed off the lot for being past that 48-hour mark.
Where do you tow them to?
I get them towed to a tow yard. I have UN Towing. I'm contracted with them, so they pick it up and they just tow it to their facility. They're pretty much impounded.
Don't your clients not pay you then if you tow their vehicle that you just repaired?
No. I'm talking about vehicles that are not paid. So customers come in, they bring their cars in, it sits on the lot. There's no communication with the customer. There's no finalizing a bill. They kind of just abandon the car, so I get them towed out of there.
You're saying before it's repaired?
Correct. After it's repaired, I'll give them a time frame within 48 hours to pick the car up, or I start charging storage fees to kind of get the car out of
Or
there.
do you expect to put any of those vehicles in the new parking?
No, absolutely not. I don't want any cars on that lot at all. It doesn't look good, I don't like to show a lot of vehicles on the lot just because it may fluctuate with the business and what I'm trying to do. Especially when people think you're too busy, they don't want to come in. It's not really a good look. I kind of want to just clear it as much as I possibly can. The reason why I'm doing this is because I need safer parking. I need people to come in, to pull in off Gratiot safely, get out of their car safely, get into my facility safely. It's really of the kind of money I've put over the last couple of years of fixing cars just sitting on Gratiot is ridiculous. And I really can't afford doing it anymore. I need better parking for my facility. I need customers to come in safely. I need people to leave safely. I have no intention of leaving any cars overnight. Cars get dropped off during the night, you know, it's out of my hands, it is what it is. I have none of that intention at all. I need all the cars basically off the slot pulled towards either my back alley or inside my building itself.
But realistically, if a car's pulled in, is towed in overnight, where do they go now?
So right now, I leave a back space open, they get dropped off over there. You know, you get some that maybe stick in an alley, but they're immediately moved overnight. You know, I mean, towing companies are towing companies, they're gonna drop it wherever they feel it's easier for them. You know, it's not up to me, it's, you know, if I could drop it over here, it's gonna be much quicker for me to drop it and leave. You know, I can't really dictate, you know, how they're dropping it, where they're dropping it.
Yeah, I guess my point is, it's realistic to think that there will be some cars in that new parking lot.
There will
For that
be.
reason.
There will be. Oh, yeah, I mean, there will be. I'm not gonna tell you it's not, you know, but it's my job to remove them. I don't want anything inoperable over there. I don't want anything smashed in there. All that would be moved, tucked away, either in the building or in the back. So it's really of a maneuvering, how to properly get the cars to move out. But the clearer, the better. I mean, honestly, since I took back over, we've had that lot cleared. It seemed like it was much more better for my business because people were coming in more. They didn't seem that we were too busy. So it benefited me, believe it or not. It really did benefit me. Now my objective is I need safer parking. I mean, I have to have safer parking.
Did you, from the, everything that you heard from Ms. Wolf, did you have any issues with any of the suggestions that were in her recommendations?
The only issue I had with Ms. Wolf was leaving my 22130, which my auto repair facility, tied into the 22100 of our cars being parked on there. I don't have any other disagreement with Ms. Wolf, landscaping, concrete, trees. I didn't have an issue with any of them. The only issue I had is if I were to have a customer that parked on my facility and being responsible for that car, or just a random customer, you know, it doesn't even have to be a customer for my facility. It could be just somebody off the street just parking a car there, having a party, for example, right? They park their cars there, they leave their car there. I don't want to be held liable or punished, or especially put my license on the line for something like this, you know? Obviously, I'm going to do the best that I can do to remove the cars. I really have a very strict policy on getting cars impounded. I mean, every week I'm probably impounding 2 or 3 different vehicles. You know, I don't like it. It's not a good look. I want them gone. But that would be my only issue, my only dilemma with tying my business license for my auto repair to the 22100.
So you don't have a problem with it being a public lot? You just don't want to tie your business license?
I don't want to tie my business license to it. No, I mean, if somebody's going to park off the street, that's fine. But my concern is, you know, how are we going to differentiate, you know, our lot or a public car to my car? You know, it's just going to be, it's going to be too difficult.
Madam Chair,
Yes, please.
I have a question for the attorney. Ms. Albrecht. So, given the fact that the parking lots that was on the back, that's a private parking, correct?
Correct.
And the one that we're speaking of tonight will be a public parking. What liability would lie on the owner of the business, of that lot, if someone is hurt from a party or just a random individual parking that lot? Say something happened, break a leg, or where does the liability lie?
Well, anybody that has ownership interest in that property would possibly be liable. That's why you'd always want to have some type of insurance policy, just like you have for your business or for your residence.
So then that opens the owner up to more possible accidents, should we say?
I don't know if it would. I mean, if there is some type of incident that occurs, the property owner, whether it's this gentleman or anybody else has an ownership interest, they may be subject to liability.
Absolutely.
So
Chair, may I clarify a point?
Yes, please.
Just to clarify 2 points. So we're not considering this entire lot as a public parking lot. surface parking lot is associated to serve the principal business at 22300. One of the recommendations of the special land use was a way that it could be an improvement and to better utilize the parking was at a minimum that some spaces are designated as public parking, or that they allow for businesses within the vicinity to utilize it as their parking or customer parking as well. So it doesn't have to be the entire lot. It could be just a number that the commission sees as reasonable so that it's not, our intention is to avoid this from being a outdoor storage area. If it's to be utilized as a parking, we really want it to be utilized as parking. And so a way for that to be not only beneficial to the business, but to the community and the site as a special land use, is that it would also serve neighboring businesses. So it's not for the whole lot to be a public parking lot. I would like to clarify that. And then second of all, the condition that the applicant is speaking about is number 4, which we do differentiate that it is specific to the parking of inoperable vehicles and vehicles associated with the auto repair business at 22130. So it is to truly ensure that for a period beyond 24 hours, that inoperable vehicles are not accumulating in this parking lot.
And I mean, the scope of my work is really more of getting the car in and getting the car out. I don't really do excessive work to the point where the car has to sit for, I mean, we're not in the pandemic anymore, right? So a lot of the material, a lot of the parts that we're getting, they're readily available. So a lot of the work I do, the scope of my work that I do is basically your in and out stuff, your basic suspension, your basic tires, your brakes. That's where my focal point is. So I don't don't even take heavy electrical vehicles in anymore just because of the timeness. It costs me more money to have a car come in, to work on their electrical, to let the car sit, than what it's worth to really charge for the job. So if you swung by my facility a couple of times, you would notice that I barely have any cars on the lot, right? I have a few in the back, but barely have any cars on the lot. I don't even utilize that lot as much as I thought I would. The scope is just to really get this a safety hazard for my customers, right? I need safety for my customers. I can't keep, repairing cars, or God forbid somebody gets hit, or, whatever the situation may be, it's in God's hands, really. I just can't, I can't keep putting my customers in this situation that it's in, right? If it makes it better, I could always fence it. I think that's something that we spoke about a little bit, is fencing the whole lot. If it makes it easier to fence it, I don't have an issue fencing the lot up and kind of make it more of a private than a public parking. Only for my patrons at the business and all the business north of the 22100 Gratiot Ave.
Chair, may I add?
Yes, please.
So this is what it is in the downtown district, which is why there's trying to reframe this as, again, how does it contribute to the downtown? What we want to avoid is it to be a security fence, privacy fence, closed-in lot. If the proposal is to be a surface parking lot, then our recommendations is that it is operated in that way, and then enhancements to the community and the vicinity are made by this operating as an outdoor or as a surface parking lot. I just wanted to clarify that because what we are trying to avoid here is that it would be a fenced-in outdoor storage area.
Let's look at the lot. How many parking spots are in that lot? Ballpark or
Oh, this
actual?
one?
Probably like 20, 30?
Yeah, I would say.
All right,
Yeah.
so, and you've already told us you don't need all those spots, right?
Right.
So when the recommendation is for a public and private lot, part of it private, part of it public, from what I hear you say, is you don't need the 30 spots.
Right.
So that doesn't impede you to make part of it public.
Right, so I'd want the open space, it would be easier to maneuver around. So what I don't want to do is, I don't want to turn half concrete and half grass. I kind of want to make the whole thing as much concrete as possible. I mean, especially if I'm going to put a bunch of catch basins in. I want to make it as much concrete as I possibly can. If you don't need me to stripe them, if you don't want me to stripe them, I won't stripe them. But my goal here is to make it as big as I possibly can.
As a parking lot.
Right.
Well, the truth of the matter is, going back to liability, you're not wrong, right? And we all heard what Mr. Albright said, if somebody parks there and they get injured, and it's your property, you're gonna be named on a lawsuit. That's just the fact of the matter. But that's true of any other place, any other parking lot. People park next to other businesses in the neighboring parking lots, and they park on the side streets, so, he doesn't need all of this parking for his patrons. He's already said that. So I don't see a problem with a public and partial private parking lot. I just think it needs to be laid out in a way to support it in a different way. I don't see that from what I'm looking at here. That, part of it's public and part of it's private, it's not, I don't know what the layout is to differentiate. Yes, you can put a sign up. And how do people even know that this is a public, some part of it is public? How do they know that? So I think if that's the way it was to go, then those types of things need to be addressed. I don't think they're addressed, or maybe I'm not looking at it right. But if there's a public lot that is used for the surrounding area, somehow it needs to be communicated. Whether it's a sign, what's the normal, would be the normal way that would go, something like that.
So it would be, I would encourage a conversation between the applicant and the commission to figure that out. From our perspective, we just wanted to avoid that it's marked and fenced off as a private lot. Don't park here, how you see those signs
Aesthetic, yeah.
sometimes. Right, and so at that point, it doesn't become usable at all to other businesses or customers. So we want to avoid, I think if the applicant needed to reserve some spaces and clearly mark parking for Keystone Auto only,
Yeah.
then at least it not be for all of the parking lot or all of the spaces. I think that's a reasonable balance. Or alternatively, that if we wanted to make sure that there were public parking reserved, that a few spaces have a public parking placard. It could go either way.
Please.
Madam Chair, I want to support this, and you're on the right track. You can go anywhere else in the city, and sometimes a public person comes into the building, in the police department or the courthouse, and there's designated parking for specific people, and then the rest can be there. I was over there the day for about 3 hours, but I was in a public place as the building official, but I didn't stay in a place that was designated for the company or the business of which I was sitting in. And so I think the protection was to just make sure that you have it. I want to also support your idea of your concern with the planning about 2213 being put into your liability. The only thing that's in that motion is that we don't want any inoperable vehicles set back on there.
Agreed.
And that would be the only reason there would be any liability to your license if it got crazy and down the road you started throwing fixed cars back on it and can't be moved. That's the concern that was there.
Agreed.
No other issues about us of holding your license liable to that parking lot was other than keeping non-operable vehicles off that property. That was the only category. I just wanted to clarify it wasn't exclusive to anything that goes crazy. If you don't give enough public parking to it, you're going to be liable in your license. It was just about your inoperable spots that might get put there. We don't want you to have that there as a public or a service to your customers. We support the idea of getting as many of your customers off the street. It isn't controlled at this point at the speed limit at Gratiot in front of your building. The space between your building, the sidewalk, and the first lane in the highway is not as wide as you'd like it to be when you have to open a door.
Yeah.
Or you have a full-size truck there getting out. So we expect that, we appreciate that, and we think that's what this parking lot is ideal for.
100%.
If you wanted the least or limited available for public, you could stripe it or tag it that way.
And that's what I'll do.
And just leave the rest available to yourselves. We just want it to be not chained off. we want it to be decorative, we want it to be practical.
Sure.
And we want it to be available to your customers off the street, but we do not want it to be part of your repair stacking vehicles.
You don't want it to be a junkyard. I mean, I totally understand.
That's all.
I'm with you.
So our fourth amendment is all about, motion is tied there is just, and it's actually written there that we don't want your inoperable vehicles.
Sure.
Parked there as a place to store them while you're waiting to get them fixed or getting them into the shop.
I understand.
That's all it was.
Yep, I understand.
Thank you.
Okay, how do we feel about the EV supply equipment? Any discussion for that?
His intention is to make his customers safe and not to be so close to the street. And he has to, that charging station is not a small investment, and the maintenance is, it never goes away.
I think I would agree with that. I would agree with that.
I feel the same way.
So do I.
Okay. Yes,
If I can just ask a question.
please.
Ms. Wolf, based on the comments this evening, the city administration have a recommendation on revised language for item number 3 of the recommended motion.
Yes.
And what would that language?
Just give me one
consist of?
second here. Let me consult with the building official.
Thank you.
Yeah. So the proposed amendment to number 3 specifically should be an improvement to the community. The project may not be private parking only for every parking space. May not designate every parking space as private parking only for Keystone Auto. Period.
Can we come up with a minimum number? I mean, you can make, based on that language, you can make 29 of his. So what do you think is fair?
If we have 30 spots, let's do 29 of them for Keystone and 1 of them for public parking. That way we could limit the liability against a slip and fall or somebody were to, whatever the situation may be, whatever happens.
29 for Keystone?
And we'll do 1 for public parking to limit any type of liability that may or may not arise.
Okay, so that defeats the purpose of what we're trying to achieve.
I'm trying to,
I mean,
I'm trying to make it where,
I was thinking you were going to tell me you needed 5, but you want 29.
I really want to kind of make this a safety thing, right? I'm trying to answer this in a way where this is more for the benefit of my customers coming off of Gratiot safely and trying to eliminate any type of liability that may happen where some random person were to slip and fall on my lot because it was a public spot. That's my objective here, right? I just want this thing to be safe. At the end of the day, the only reason why I am doing this is because I want this to be safe. And that's what it comes down to.
Madam Chair,
So,
if I may,
go ahead.
I think we could think of this differently or reversed
Okay,
for what you're thinking, and it might be a help. We don't need to publicize it as public.
right.
We could publicize it as his. And what is not being used, if we're suggesting is one public, you don't have to advertise that there's one public parking spot, but we could leave 10% of them unidentified as his. And say we're giving him all the identification of the other 90%. we don't have to publicize it's a public parking lot. We can give it to him for his safety and identify what he's asking his tenants and his persons and his clientele to park in. Right now, I think we're thinking we have to advertise to the whole city, public parking here.
Right,
Take
right.
that off the table and say it's available. We're not gonna tow your car away, but we're also identifying what really is patrons of his business in a percentage. And I would go more than one. I would at least say if you got 30, give us 10% that aren't marked for his patrons and let's see what happens.
So, and I had, thank you for clarifying that, Mr. Myers. So I had two thoughts. One would be you probably already carry some type of insurance
Absolutely,
on your business anyway.
absolutely.
So if someone were to slip or fall in the parking lot, it wouldn't be any different if they were to slip or fall in your shop.
Correct.
And my second thing that I just can't come to terms with is somebody owning something and that we're making him use it for public.
Madam Chair, how does item 2 not address what we're trying to do in item 3? Will item 2 meet the other businesses using the lots in item 2, and then we go to 3 and we like to say something else? So would item 2 be adequate
Good
in
point.
the motion? Maybe just eliminate item 3.
So the other businesses that are on that block, those are all your buildings?
Correct, except the 22140, which is in the center, that's Larry's building.
Okay, so I guess there's a loophole, right?
I mean, you're addressing the need for parking from businesses north of Philly
And those are all his buildings anyway.
and the customers who use the space, so
Okay.
why, I mean, do we need to take it even further than that, than to say the general public that won't even know? Because they're gonna see business, think it's for businesses. I don't think anyone driving on the street says, oh, I think I'll go park there.
Yeah.
Good point.
Madam Chair, may I clarify the intent of the reasoning again?
Yes.
So I want to remind the commission that this is in the downtown. And what we see in other cities is that when businesses can be possessive over their parking spaces. It's on their property, you want to use it for your use, and it should absolutely be there to support your business, which is the intention. However, it becomes really like restrictive and detrimental to the community and the vicinity overall is when it becomes marked as all private parking for this business only. And in some cases, we've even seen that they'll still mark those spaces as we will tow your vehicle unless you're a customer for the specific business, even after business hours. We see this sometimes with businesses that close at normal business hours, and then there sits an empty parking lot. In this case, it would be even more detrimental because it is in the downtown, and we want to encourage businesses of all time periods and people. Hopefully, there'll be more public events in this area. We want to build this area up. We want more patrons. We want more businesses. So what we're trying to avoid is that this becomes not only visually blocked off from the public, but also an additional barriers to being utilized to its fullest potential. And again, it is a special land use, so there has to be a component in which it would benefit the community.
Understood.
Beyond the
I think we just kind of
customers.
worked that out.
I think we address that because we're not fencing it off, it's open, and any business in that area is welcome to use it. I think it's described in line 2. Unless you feel you need to say, I mean, I think it addresses it. It's open to any business in that strip.
Yeah, so again,
Maybe we take away to the north of it, or just say any businesses in the area.
sure, that would be fine, because what we're just trying to avoid is that this becomes a private parking lot for one business only, and then
Exactly.
it's not serving the area.
And I just want to know your thoughts on the EV supply equipment.
EV supply, I haven't really seen any in the area to make that kind of commitment and that kind of investment.
They're in the parking lot.
I mean, yeah, but I mean, I guess the way I'm looking at it is I haven't served those kind of customers yet. Is it something in the future that I'm going to do? Absolutely. I don't think it's something I would invest into right now as we speak. And I'm only looking at this, guys, I'm only looking at this as a mechanical standpoint. I'm not looking at this as I'm driving around the city and seeing who has electric cars or not. I'm looking at which customers or which vehicles come into my shop. Is it worth the investment? Is it not worth the investment? And believe it or not, this is something I've actually spoken with technicians before all this happened over the last 6 months about getting EV chargers. Maybe we should start servicing those vehicles. It would be beneficial. I don't think it would benefit me now. But again, I want you to think about this as me, a business owner, only really looking at this as the cars that are coming in the facility and not the cars that are actually driving around the facility. You know what I mean? That's the way I'm looking at it.
Does anyone else have any questions for the applicant? Yes, Mr. Myers.
May I clarify again, that the motion isn't saying today in fixing and repairing, putting the hard surface down. Our ordinance doesn't require you to put the EV station in. It does ask you to put the underground service in
Sure.
today. And then when the day comes and you really feel there's more electricity than there are gas, and you do want it, then you're ready to go to the future.
Sure.
And so the idea wasn't to say that they would have to put all 2 or 3 or 5 spots with EV station, electrical powering stations. But like the other 2 services we've communicated in the last month, we're asking you to prepare for that future. So when you are ready, it's ready for you.
Sure.
Okay, so does the EV supply equipment, does that need to be further detailed in the motion, or?
We can address it in the site plan.
Okay, thank you.
So we will strike number 3 and then revise number 2 to be harmonious with the
Okay.
master plan. The project must allow the businesses within the vicinity to utilize the parking lot.
Yeah, I mean,
Is that-
that makes sense, because I don't think you want to totally define it. As you said, what happens when the Gratiot Cruise comes and somebody parks and they're not necessarily using it because they want to walk around a mile down Gratiot. So I like the way vicinity is more broad.
If I may, if we could revisit number 4 again, regarding the license of 22130 to the 22100 about the inoperable vehicles. Would that be more of inoperable vehicles only from the 22130 over, or is that any vehicle? I just want some clarity on it, if you don't mind.
If the clarity is coming from me, that would be parking of inoperable vehicles within this parking lot. Is that what the question is?
Yeah, so I just want to make sure it's inoperable.
Yes.
Excuse me, you're only talking about inoperable and not operable vehicles, not any vehicle. Not
Yeah.
any person off the street comes and parks, and then somehow I'm punished with it. Okay, all right,
The term is inoperable.
okay.
Commission, are you satisfied with the wording of number
You
4?
can say inoperable vehicles from his auto repair business.
Says parking, I can read number 4.
Please.
To ensure that the use is not disruptive and does not create excessive costs to public services, the project must provide a note on the site plan understanding that parking of inoperable vehicles or vehicles associated with the
Yeah,
auto repair business in the newly constructed parking lot will result in the revocation of 22130 Gratiot's business license, the adjacent vehicle repair facility, and the site plan and the special land use for 22100 Gratiot. So it is inoperable vehicles or vehicles associated with the repair
right.
business.
And
auto repair
that's where I'm
business.
confused at, because it's or vehicles associated with the 22130. So that could be,
Yeah,
right, my
it should be-
customers.
I think it should be just left at inoperable vehicles associated with the auto repair.
That's fine.
Okay.
Okay, anyone else have any comments, questions, concerns? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have someone to consider a motion with recommendation for city council for site plan, I'm sorry, special land use approval at 22100 Gratiot surface parking lot? Okay.
We have a motion to recommend conditional approval of the proposed special land use for a parking lot at 22100 Gratiot Avenue, 021431177005, based on the findings of fact in the planner's review letter dated September 26, 2024, and contingent on the following. One, to be harmonious with the master plan and existing character, the project must provide enhanced screening and landscaping beyond site plan requirements. This includes, but is not limited to, the addition of landscaped islands and a screening wall that consists of a masonry screening wall and landscaping screen. Number two, to be harmonious with the master plan, the project must allow the businesses within the vicinity to utilize the parking lot. Three, to be an improvement to the community, the project must designate public parking spaces.
That was straight up.
Oh, three is strike.
Number 4 is
No.
number 3.
Right, number 4 is now number 3. To ensure that the land is not disruptive and does not create excessive cost to public services, the project must provide a note on the site plan, understanding that parking of inoperable vehicles or vehicles associated with the auto repair business in the newly constructed parking lot will result in the revocation of 22130 Gratiot's business license.
We were just going to make that
We were going to make that
inoperable.
inoperable.
Just inoperable.
Just inoperable. Number 5, to be consistent with the zoning ordinance, the project must receive site plan approval, which will address the inoperable vehicles stacked and parked in the parking lot to the east of the site and the vehicles parked within the alley.
Excuse me if I may. I'm sorry. Can you read number 5 again?
To be consistent
Uh-huh.
with the zoning ordinance, the project must receive site plan approval,
Okay.
which will address the inoperable vehicles stacked and parked in the parking lot to the east of the site and the vehicles parked within the alley.
Okay, I don't think I have anything in L.
We have motion, do we have support?
Support.
May I ask a
Yes.
question? What does that last statement mean?
Well, that's going to
You have to
go
have a
fall
site
under,
plan.
yeah,
You can't have a special land use without a site plan.
so now we'll.
Why is it
further
a
dis-
statement then here, then, if we have to have a site plan? That's obvious. Why is this a statement in a special land use? Yeah, please.
That has been common practice of the planning department in the past year to state that with special land uses.
That a site
For all
plan will be
clar-
required.
Yeah,
Okay.
just for all
Fair enough.
clarity purposes.
Okay.
We have motion and support. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Moody,
Yes.
with support from Ms. Naylor, Commissioner Naylor?
Yes?
Okay, Ms. Naylor, yes. Mr. Broll, yes. Chairwoman Ulinski.
Yes. Okay, item C under new business, consider motion to approve a site plan for the surface parking lot at 22100 Gratiot Avenue. Mrs. Wolf?
Yes, so the site plan review as well as the engineering review was conducted when this application was submitted, back in May, I believe. And there are still outstanding concerns that the engineering team especially has marked auction of a parking lot. So they would have to have they're parking for more than 20 spaces, so there would have to be, landscaping island. They also would have to have the, electric ready 20% where there's like the electrical wiring that's present. And again, that's a requirement of any new construction. We repeated in our review that there must be a dedicated pedestrian path from the parking lot to the sidewalk for safety reasons. And again, that the parking cannot be overstacked, and there must not be cars parked in the aisles, which should be clarified on the site plan. I mean, beyond that, it's pretty routine to what we review for new construction. I'm not sure if there's anything specific that you have questions about or that we should add to our review.
Was lighting addressed? Sorry, was that?
I don't believe that a photometric plan has been provided yet, but that would need to be provided before any approval is issued. Yeah, that has not been submitted yet.
So, and tied to the site plan approval are the things to be addressed concerning the vehicles to the east of the alley as well, is that correct?
Let me double check.
Okay.
It does say under access management that the applicant cannot park cars in the alley, and then it's further explained in the parking and loading section. So furthermore, the applicant must provide a note on the site plan indicating that the parking of vehicles in the alley and the public right-of-way is prohibited and may result in the revocation of the site plan and the business license if violated. Parking in the alley and the public right-of-way is a risk to the health and safety of the community. And these, again, historically have been enforced in other ways, so either through building code enforcement or fire if there is a hazard to emergency vehicle access. But a standard practice is on other applications as well that we've presented to you. We try to clarify this with the applicant ahead of time to avoid any future issues.
So the parking for the vehicles to be repaired or picked up behind the buildings has been addressed already with the applicant?
Yes.
Okay.
It's been like that for the last 80 years. I mean, they parked there and picked up from the same exact spot. I don't
Oh, I
have-
know, I live over there.
Oh, okay, so you know the facility.
So I do know the facility, and I know that alley is,
Now, that alley, it's been ratified ever since I've signed with UN to get a proper company to come in there and pick cars off the lot, off the alley, or cars that needed to be impounded. I haven't had that issue anymore where cars are left. If they are left, they're probably dropped overnight over some tow truck company that was just too lazy to put it in a spot. But it's immediately addressed in the morning. I mean, immediately addressed. If you drive by there, you shouldn't see anything out there of a vehicle sitting in the alley itself. I know I had that problem when they were tearing down the building at one point in time, back in the earlier of the year, where cars were just sitting in the lot. A lot of the issues were that many of those vehicles were probably contractors that were tearing down the building, or when I had a manager there that wasn't really doing his job that he's supposed to, but he's not with me anymore. So a lot of these issues have been ratified. I don't have that problem anymore where cars are just sitting all over the place or sitting in the middle of the lot. If you drive by now, or if you've drove by over the last couple of weeks or even the last month, you would see that everything has been cleared out properly. Okay.
I've noticed there were a lot of changes. I noticed there's still a bunch of tires stored behind.
They had some tires in the back. I'm actually contracted with another company called Trier Shredders that pick them up every day. Over the last couple of days, I'm not gonna lie to you, they haven't showed up. I do have a few different tires out there that are being addressed, but I'm on it. I mean, when I tell you guys I'm on it, I am on it, like.
Well, I've
there's no
noticed there's
tomorrow.
not as many as there used to be.
Yeah, I am on it. I get rid of cars that shouldn't be there. Cars are abandoned, they're gone, tires are gone. I've cleared all the cars off the lot. Whatever I could fit inside, I fit inside, and whatever I could get rid of, I get rid of almost immediately.
Okay, I just wanted to check on that.
Sure,
Thank you.
absolutely.
Okay, does anyone have any discussion for site plan approval?
No discussion.
Mr. Broll?
No.
Then does anyone want to make a motion to approve the site plan for surface parking lot at 22100 Gratiot? Oh, sorry. Missed that, my apologies. Pause. Speaking of pause, how about them Tigers? Just amusing myself. Break over. Okay, does anyone want to consider a motion to approve the site plan for the surface parking lot at 22100 Gratiot Avenue?
I'll make a motion. Motion to approve the site plan for a parking lot at 22100 Gratiot Avenue, 021431177005. Provided that a revised site plan is presented to the city planner to address the comments during the planning commission meeting and the required and recommended conditions outlined in the planner's review dated September 26, 2024, and the required conditions in the engineer's letter, and based on the fact that the site plan is generally in compliance with the ordinance. Listed on the first page of the site plan review is the information needed for site plan conditional approval.
We have motion, do we have support?
Support.
Mr. Brohl, please call the roll.
Commissioner Moody,
Yes.
Commissioner Naylor,
Yes.
Commissioner Broll, yes, Chairwoman Ulinski.
Yes. That's it?
Thank you.
Okay, next, under new business, consider site plan reapproval for 16410 Stevens Self-Storage Facility.
Thank you, Chair. So the context of this site is a number of you were on the commission in 2022 when MySpace Storage proposed a conditional rezoning and then a site plan for the site on Gratiot, 24200 Gratiot, as well as on Stevens, 16410 Stevens. The project for phase one of the project, 24200 Gratiot, was constructed. However, they never fulfilled phase three, which was the construction of 16410 Stevens. So to refresh your memory, I did print out a copy of actually, let me scroll down to it. Actually, it's here, a copy of the old site plan as it was, after it went through the planning review, building review, engineering review. This was the final site plan that we have on file that did receive approval. The company at that time then did seek their building permits. And that was only last year, so 2023. And so actually this past September 2024, those building permits just expired. But in the meantime, MySpace Storage actually sold the properties to Prime Storage. So Prime Storage is the new owner, and now they are active on the site. They are currently operating the Gratiot location and have come forward to finally actualize Phase 3. So this evening, they're requesting reapproval of the site plan. Now, what that would mean is that the general layout of this approved site plan would be reinstated, and then it would go through administrative review. So from there, the planning team would review it again to make sure that it still complies with the ordinance as well as the conditional rezoning. It would still go through the building plans again, as well as engineering plans. And then I believe they need a permit from Eagle as well. So they are just, they're working on finalizing their construction building plans, but they want to move forward with the general layout. So I requested the clarification on the agenda this evening that it's not a site plan extension, because site plan extensions can only be given 12 months after they're approved, and we are beyond that period. So at this point, they are requesting a reapproval.
Anyone have any questions? No? Okay, I'll give you a minute to move.
And then I will clarify, just like with the applicant earlier this evening, if there is any point when that they don't meet the zoning ordinance, then they would need to come back to Planning Commission for a request of a waiver. But at this point, there's not any waivers being requested.
So a reapproval grants them another 12 months to go through this process. They already pulled the permits, but now the permits have expired, so they have to re-pull permits.
Yes. Yes, so actually, if we do want to speed this project up to avoid the vacant under construction site from continuing, you could consider that in your motion for the reapproval, that you reduce the timeline, so that, let's say, instead of having 12 months to reissue their building permits, that you find it necessary to only issue, have 3 months, or I'm sorry, a 6-month period that they would then be eligible to seek their building permits.
So we could reduce the reapproval for 6 months, and then they can go ahead with their building. Are they up to speed for us to be able to cut that in half?
Yeah, they are already working with their engineering team to finalize the necessary documents to move forward with the review as well as any permitting that they may need. So we have met with the new property owners, and they are interested in moving forward and actualizing this project sooner rather than later,
So we could give them the 6 months and they would be fine with that?
from my understanding, yes.
Why would we even limit ourselves to 6 months?
If you wanted them to expedite the,
No, I'm
Oh.
saying why not 3? So for instance, like, if what you're saying is that they're ready to get this done, that means next spring they're breaking ground, or maybe before for them.
Yes.
I don't know. I don't know,
that's
but
correct.
we're not waiting until September of next year, so let's get this thing done if we're gonna do it.
Madam Chair, I would agree in that principle, and that's why we suggest to you tonight to consider 6 instead of 12, because the reality is the permit is good for 6. So if we gave them up to 12 months, we're now at 18 before they get started. However, if we give them, as you're saying, even we give them the 3 instead of 6, they may get through the winter, or they may get to what they call the black freezing of a building. You stop building new ground, you stop opening holes until about March. And so if you can give them to pull their permits until January or February, that's 4 months, 5 months, then they're ready to go, because their permits will only be good for 6. And so once they get started, they have to have time and ability to break ground. And that probably won't ever start in the uniqueness of our state, fresh ground, until March.
So if we gave them 3 months, it would be just about that time.
Right, so that, right, if you gave them 4 months, you get them into January, then they would have time to get all their engineering. They may be right now working off of the plans that have already been approved and modifying those at minimal levels, and then going from there. Their only drawback may be, which I can't confirm this until we make a call, but it may be Eagle, getting their permits through Eagle. But if they can get ours, then they can get started.
Yes, please.
The only reason that we didn't do a shorter time than 6 months is because sometimes with the back and forth between not just planning, but planning, building, and engineering, it's kind of a domino effect. So once it goes to planning, then it goes to building, and then engineering is simultaneous. So there could be further,
Delay.
yeah,
Yeah.
than 3 months.
That was going to be my question, is what your thoughts were on the timeline. Okay,
That's reasonable.
agree. All right, do we have motion to consider site plan reapproval for 16410 Stevens self-storage facility for a timeline of 6 months?
Motion to consider reapproval of 16416 Stevens self-storage facility for a period of 6 months.
We have motion, do we have support?
Commissioner Naylor,
Yes.
Commissioner Moody,
Yes.
Commissioner Broll is a yes. Chairwoman Ulinski.
Yes. All right, we have no unfinished business. Do we have training tonight? No training. We are on to second hearing of the public for items not scheduled for a public hearing. Do we have anyone from the public that, no? Okay, public.
Congratulations on your reappointment.
Oh, thank you. Commissioners' comments. We'll just go around the room. Mr. Myers,
Nothing this evening.
Mrs. Wolf,
Just thank you again for being diligent and answering every concern that you have throughout the process. I appreciate that.
thank you. Mr. Albright,
Thank you, Madam Chair. No additional comments this evening.
Ms. Naylor?
No comments this evening.
Y'all want to go home, don't you?
I do.
Ms. Moody?
No comments this evening.
Mr. Broll?
Nice job stepping in and being the chairperson today. Good
Thank you,
job.
thank you.
That's my comment.
Appreciate you. Appreciate you all, and I won't be Chair DeHunt. I will just say have a great evening, and thank you all very much.
I make a motion to adjourn them. Sorry, I'm sorry.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have support? Roll, Mr. Roll?
So funny. Commissioner Moody,
Yes.
Commissioner Naylor, Commissioner Broll is a yes. Chairwoman Ulinski.
Yes. Good night.